And we're live. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, one and all. I think I'm not sure that Linda's going to be able to join us today. She's not feeling the greatest, but we're gonna try to do this one and make her proud.
Yeah, we're going to do the best we can. So, Mom, hope you feel better. I know you're watching. And just drop a note in the chat. Tell us where you're joining from. We're really excited about today. We've got some amazing experts, and John's been working with them for a while. We met them at a conference, and lots of exciting stuff. So we're really excited for you all to meet the team from. Go ahead, John.
I think next time that Linda can't come, I think we probably should do a cover of "Mama Tried."
The jokes in this guy.
Okay, too much, too far. Okay. Good morning. I see all sorts of great people that are joining us from all over the place.
Anybody join? Oh, we got somebody from Ecuador. That's awesome. I love people joining from other countries. Bienvenidos. I see somebody asking about the WAVwatch 2.0 didn't get the discount. You just need a discount code to get 100, and then there's an extra $25 off. And so at the end of this webinar, we'll give you the discount code for Dr. EMF, and you can use that. And
somebody's here from Croatia. I haven't been there
before. Oh, that's amazing. I've been to Croatia. Love that. Where in Croatia, Patricia? Yeah. So let's see. All right. Well, I'll jump into the disclaimer, and then John, you can introduce our guests.
Okay.
So just for everyone that's joining, the WAVwatch is a low-risk acoustical frequency product in the general wellness category of the FDA, designed to support self-care and overall wellness. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or medical condition. It's not FDA approved or classified as a medical device, and its frequencies are considered experimental. So today, just kind of the order of show, we will be interviewing Dr. EMF. And if you have questions, just comment in the chat. And if we're able to, we'll bring those up with them. And then we'll also have a time of specific questions at the end. And then we're going to give away a WAVwatch. So we'll explain how to do that. And then at the very end, there's a special offer for you. So that's what we got today.
Okay. Well, it's always easier to, people don't blush, I guess, when you give a great bio or talk about them a little bit when they're not on the screen. So, but we were at a conference in May of this year and met these wonderful people that had come through and just had such incredible conversations. And then I was delighted when those conversations kind of turned into a bit of a working arrangement. And we're just really excited that they're on our team. And so without any further ado, the Dr. EMF team is Dr. Russell J. Kort, who's been in medicine for over 40 years, focused on brain trauma and concussion rehab. He's pioneered digital wellness, specific treatment for patients suffering from 4G and 5G exposure. And he's the lead clinician of Dr. EMF and on the faculty of the Sleep Balance Academy. And then his partner in not crime, but his partner in healing is Jonette, affectionately referred to as Jet. She is a biochemist, environmental scientist, and breast cancer thriver. That is such a great word, even more fun than survivor. So she is a thriver. And she has developed a comprehensive approach to optimal health by identifying environmental stressors and providing strategies to unlock the body's innate ability to heal. She is the lead researcher for Dr. EMF and also on the faculty of the Sleep Balance Academy. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring these pictures to life for Jet and Dr. Kort. So,
welcome.
Welcome. And first of all, just I wanted to, the first thing to say is we just thank Linda for all of her hard work for many years to bring this to life. And we're here and just really want to say thank you, Linda, before we get started. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And I just want to start with, good morning, WAVwatch Nation. We are so excited to be here.
Nice. And where are you guys joining from for all of our people?
Thermopolis, Wyoming.
That's amazing. And for people that might not know, John and I were born in Wyoming, so little connection there.
Just down
Yes.
the road, about a day's stagecoach ride.
Stagecoach. That's amazing. Yes, it is kind of amazing. It's cool that it's coming full circle, and that we have our early roots in Wyoming, and that you guys have moved there, in the last couple, 3-4 years.
Right.
And it's pretty cool. So it's bright and early. So I'm getting on toward lunch, and you guys are probably just done with breakfast, but we're glad to be joining from all over the place. So awesome. Well, I guess, I tried to give a great intro there on those incredible bios. And, for those of you joining us that have maybe been to a whole slew of conferences in the Florida Panhandle and Texas, and then another one in Miami recently, you might recognize these folks. And then Dr. Kort was even a speaker on a panel at Biohackers World in Miami. So we're delighted for that. And then, I guess I can start into this now, speaking of conferences. But we met you guys at a conference, and then we're gearing up for another conference in about 3 weeks, which, actually, 3.5 weeks. But it should be really incredible. And you guys are going to be representing WAVwatch at A4M in Las Vegas, right?
Yes, over 7,000 physicians attend that. And having attended before, I know it's going to be a super fun and great experience to be able to share WAVwatch and WAVwatch 2.0.
Yes. And, we haven't worked out contract details for the third member of your team, but there is a furry friend that you guys have brought everywhere else. Is Kaizen there as well?
Yeah, he was just right here. I was rubbing him because he was like whining. And a lot of times, don't have him come up though.
Too much.
He's right here by our feet.
So, he actually serves a pretty incredible purpose that might be a good segue into how you guys got started in this down this journey. So, he's a federally licensed service animal, correct?
I'm here.
Hang on,
right.
he's
So
right
this
here. Hang on.
This is Kaizen. He's
right.
a blue healer.
Okay.
And he is. We trained him. I trained him for 9 months, and then we had him trained at a nonprofit that we work with called Pause for Success, aka Rebel Ranch.
Okay.
And he was trained for another 6 months there, where he was immersed in working on identifying my pheromones, my breath, and behavior when I become functionally impaired from electromagnetic fields. And he was the first that we know of in the world. And since then, I've never met anyone else who's done what we did, but he was trained on whoop. I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, he's really important when we go to shows. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Dr. Kort's history and EMF hypersensitivity and the symptoms, and what Kaizen does when he's lecturing, because we're in a sea of electromagnetic fields and electric fields. And when he was up on stage, there was a lot. And it affects him. And so Kaizen's job is to get him out if it's too much.
Right.
And so, if he doesn't listen, because a lot of times our frontal lobe will just say, I got to push through. Kaizen will come to me and I will take him out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean trank dart, or does that mean just holding his hand when you take him out?
It means that we have a keyword and I say it's time to go. Yeah.
I love it.
So
I was kidding about the trank dart. That
well, with Dr. Kort, if he's in it, he's not going to get out of the trenches. So you probably saw that. He's a very hardworking, and his mission is big because a lot of people on here are suffering. So I think it's a good segue for us to start with how Kaizen and our work and really how we got here.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about your history.
Sure. So I grew up in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, in the mountains in Colorado, and moved there from Ohio when I was like 6 years old. Had my first concussion at 7 skiing. And since then, I've had 6 major concussions, lots and lots of broken bones as a ski racer. But that was that's the beginning of what let us in. You want to guide me on this, Jet?
Well, he also had a lot of allergy shots when he was a child, every week going in for shots. And we learned this because of his symptomology. We had to go back and look at the history. So he had many concussions, he had allergy shots, and then he also was a childhood snorer. And this is a really important part. It's how we actually, a part of why we got into sleep medicine, because in order to heal, we have to have restorative sleep. So what does childhood snoring really mean for everybody on here?
Well, where I want to go back to, and the reason Jet brought those up is because we, as people who are talking to other people about WAVwatch and looking at what's happening in our world, we have to look at, the big word is exposome, everything that's happened to us in our past. And that's a super important part of this. So to not tread lightly on this. Concussions, back in the early 70s, we didn't think children could get concussions. We didn't even wear helmets, right, guys? So, but we didn't think that the brain could be injured. And we see this a lot in the mountains in Colorado and other places where kids start contact sports early. We see it in football now, where they've grown up through Park Warner, and every time you have that hit, the brain moves and bangs against the front of the skull or the back of the skull. And so we can have these micro traumas that will affect us later on in life. And there are very few practitioners who really understand that, think of it, or even go in there and say, how many concussions have you had? And I think that last conference that we were at, I spoke to a guy who had early onset tremor and Parkinson's. And I said, tell me about your childhood. And he's like, well, I was a big guy. I was a football player. I'm like, what position? He's like, nose guard. And I'm like, okay. Any concussions? Nah, I mean, a couple of times where I couldn't remember like the rest of the game, but no concussions. Well, that's not true. Every time since he was 8 years old, he was smashing against the guy in front of him. And it wasn't like, a receiver where you get those glory hits. It was every single play. And so we have to look at that. And then the second thing was allergy shots, like Jed had mentioned. In the mid 60s, they came out with this whole thing where we're going to start testing all these children for allergy shots, and mold, mildew, dust, grass, dog hair, cat hair, leaves, all these things I tested positive for. And so instead of working on the immunity, they're like, hey, we got to give this kid allergy shots. So I had allergy shots, one in each arm, twice a week for 8 years until I was 11, and said, that's it. I'm done with this nonsense. But think of the amount of aluminum and the thimerosal and aka mercury and other things that were in those shots that are now heavy metals that are inside our body. And when we think about frequencies vibrate things like heavy metals. And then the last part is snoring. And so we really got to look at snoring, because even my son, when he was born, I didn't understand this whole aspect of snoring. He was just a little bitty guy, and he was making these really weird sounds. And I remember calling the pediatrician and saying, hey, something's wrong with my son. And she goes, well, what? And I said, he's making these weird sounds. And she goes, well, let me listen. I mean, he's just a little baby. And so I'm holding him. I put the phone up there, and she goes, oh, Dr. Kort, that's nothing to worry about. He's just snoring. But it was huge because he had a palate issue in his mouth, and we had to do a bunch of dental work to expand his mouth to open up his airway so that he didn't snore. And that actually was a precursor to what our work is today. But for me, I was always a snorer. I was always a childhood snorer. My dad was a snorer, and we don't think about snoring. Snoring's kind of one of those bad words where you ask somebody if they snore and they're like, oh, no, man, just a little bit. Well, snoring is suffocating. And when you really break it down to that, we've got to get down and dirty on this. If you're snoring, you're suffocating. Said another way, if we push our jaw out like this, like Humphrey Bogart, and you breathe, you can breathe well. But when you lay back and your jaw falls back, Okay. We're suffocating. And if you're suffocating, then the entire night you're trying to make it through. It's a panic mode. You're suffocating. It's like being choked all night. And this leads us into a lot of our research on what we call the cell danger response. But for me as a child, because I was snoring all night, I was having trouble in school staying awake. Because I was snoring all night, I had horrible night terrors and nightmares. And these are questions that we need to ask people as well, because those don't stop. And so that nighttime, that's when we get our restorative sleep. That's when we heal from the day that we're in. So let's fast forward a little bit. Why? Do you have anything you wanted to add to that, Jet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna try to package that. The history, and everybody on here, you know, we see concierge patients that are complex, that have ALS, or they're quadriplegic, or they have dementia, Parkinson's. And so we look at a whole systems approach of how to heal. And we had to learn through Dr. Kort. And so it was at 50 where he got a mouth appliance that actually helped him have optimal restorative sleep. So it was almost all of his life he was suffocating. And so that causes a lot of other stressors. But in 40 years of medicine, he did concussion. Well, he did emergency medicine, then concussion and TBI in his clinic. But the symptoms that he had, for everybody on here, what were the main symptoms that you started seeing, Russ, for you personally in the clinic?
Well, I want to go quickly back.
Okay.
So when I was 21, I rode a bicycle around Australia, 6,500 miles, hitchhiked over 15,000 miles. And some friends of mine, they started importing cell phones, first cordless phones, then cell phones. So I had approximately the 5th phone on the continent of Australia. And at that time in 1987, that was it. And nobody else in the world really had them because it was the test market for the rest of the world. Now everybody on the planet has one. So when I graduated from chiropractic school in 99, I had a Nokia phone and it burned my hands. It was like, I couldn't decide which hand to put it in because it made my hands hurt, just ache. And when I bring it up to my head, it was like, no, I can't put this against my head because I could feel it just creating a pain in my head. And that was back in 99. So the symptoms just got worse. And my journey was, I got to find a different phone. So I went from the Nokia phone to a flip phone to a BlackBerry phone. And I had different aspects of problems with it, but I was constantly having these weird symptoms. So pain in my hands, pain in my head, heart palpitations, agitation's a big one, 0 to super cranky like this. And no one can figure out, why are you acting so weird? Just being like pushed over the edge, brain fog, and like a constant ringing in my ears that just drove me nuts. And then when I put it on my body, I'd have pain as well. And I had lots of issues with sleep. I was still snoring, but I had big problems with sleep and getting restorative sleep.
So I want to pause there. Those are what started the work in concussion-like symptoms. So he was starting to see people with symptoms like him without a physical trauma. And in the concussion TBI world, if it wasn't a physical trauma, you couldn't have a traumatic brain injury. And I want to say, we were seeing that. And then we had a patient that came in with similar symptoms to Dr. Kort. He was a referral from sleep medicine, and it really was a game changer. It became a 3-year case study. He was an electrician. He came to us in a wheelchair. We measured all the things you would think a neurologist would: EEG, balance gait, vision processing, gut microbiome, sleep, whatever, you name it, we measured it. But what we did is
voice, pupillary reflex,
vision
eye
processing,
functions,
many things. But in the 3 years, Dr. Kort really got him better in 1 week. And then he just continued to get better. And he couldn't walk in. For everybody in here, he was diagnosed with vertigo and depression from a neurologist. And Dr. Kort that said, that's not what you have. So he really got him better in 1 week, according to the data. And then over a year, 2 years, 3 years, he's resilient. We presented that case study last year at CU Boulder at a neurological EEG conference, primarily neurologist. And we presented this 3-year case study with the raw data. Okay. And so he had a 23-year-old brain. Okay. And his balance.
Not when we started.
No, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to get us through. Okay. Because we'll be here. But the bottom line is when we presented that case, he got better on balance. And he was like the bottom 3% in his balance, one step from a dirt nap at 41 years old with 2 beautiful children to at 3 years, we never stopped working on that to help him to have optimal balance at like 95, 96%. And it stayed. So he has amazing balance. And his HRV, his heart rate variability, very, very resilient. And same with his EEG, a brain of 23 years old. And one of the tests, the developer of that EEG said that may be the fastest trail-making bee we have ever seen. So going from somebody from a wheelchair not functioning to that. But at that conference, what's so important, it's the first time that in traumatic brain injury and concussions, they now include infections can cause traumatic brain injury. Okay? And toxins can cause traumatic brain injury. Okay.
Wow.
Mold cases. We had COVID long haul cases that were presented. We had heavy metal cases on toxins. We presented that EMF is the biggest environmental toxin. And we presented a 3-year case study. And so for people on here, we know that people can get better. And, through that data, through those concussion-like symptoms, which was really Dr. Kort's, area of expertise. But how did we come together? Talk about that patient and how did we start working together in sound?
Well, so Jet and I dated when we were 23, 24,
You weren't
25.
supposed to tell them that. That wasn't.
My fault. We split up and we found each other again at 50. And
Wow.
Nice.
what was crazy about this was that I had a patient with optic nerve hypoplasia. So he was born with really small optic nerves. And if you can imagine looking through straws, that's how he could see. And he was also heavily on the spectrum. So he was a big mover. And this kid, he was
How
about
old was he?
12,
Yeah.
I think, when I first met him at the YMCA. And his mom had him in a full harness with a leash on him. And she was like holding him back as he was running forward. And she called me after she met me at the Y and said, "Hey, Dr. Kort, do you think you can help my kid?" I'm like, "I don't even know what's wrong with your kid. This is crazy. I'd never seen a child like this." So I did some research into it. And, when I go into a situation like this, you have to just start at the beginning and work your way through. And so as I was doing my assessment, I was with his dad, and I had a large office above an ice rink. And we were at the back of the office. It's about 2,500 square feet. And I'm working on him, and he's laying down on the table, and I'm doing my exam on him. And all of a sudden he starts screaming, like out of the blue. He starts screaming, "No." And not like little, like, "No." And I'm going, okay, I've got 10 seconds before the whole clinic comes back to find out why this child is screaming at the top of his lungs. So I grabbed my tuning fork. I think it was 128 hertz tuning fork, whacked it on the floor and stuck it on his left big toe to get into the right side of his brain. And he goes, "Oh, yeah." And I had it all on film because I had these glasses that had a camera in the center of them. And so I knew I needed a bigger tuning fork. And I went to all these different companies that had vibration plates, and they're all mechanical. And I've had lots and lots of broken bones as a ski racer and a mountain bike racer and all the other stuff that I did in my past. And so all of those just unwound me. I couldn't stand on them. And I had heard about this sound vibration platform, and I heard that Jet had something like that. And so I reached out to her and said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a platform that operates like a tuning fork for this kid that I've got. And she goes, that's what I have. And she was importing them from South Korea.
Go ahead. But I actually got to go to South Korea, and I got to see over a decade ago, and they use sound. They don't use mechanical plates. They use sound. They use sound plates. I got to go to a facility that was a YMCA, like for children with cerebral palsy. And it was a doctorate of PT that went to New York City, got his training, and came back and created this YMCA, how to help these kids with CP. And I saw their feet go like this from like, because they're straight, they don't work, to this with a sound vibration plate. And I got to see these miracles like right in front of my eyes. And I asked him what frequency, intensity, and time are you using? And he goes, how do you know that? I go, because I own that piece of equipment. And actually, Dr. Kort was using the same frequency, which was 34 hertz for the brainstem, the same exact frequency that they were using to help these children. But when I was in South Korea for 3 weeks, I got to go to beauty places, and I got to go to hospitals, and I got to go to, with the cerebral palsy children, I got to go to many places where they were using sound over a decade ago with great precision. And then when I came back to the United States, when I was actually at A4M, where we're heading with this sound vibration plate, because I knew there were miracles, and it was still very hard for people to comprehend that sound had such power, right? And the miracles that I got to see. But Dr. Kort started using that in his practice, and to get to see how it's a very precise tuning fork for him to be able to help people with really complex neurological issues. And that's really where I think our work really started to merge together.
Yeah, we actually started, when I first stood on this, I didn't know anything about it, but I did know that I had broken lots of bones, and I was really nervous about standing on this. I'd had 3 back surgeries, and so I stood on it, and her colleague brought it over, and I started going up in the frequencies. And as I was going up in the frequencies, I got to this 34 hertz, which the machine goes to 70 hertz, but I got to 34 hertz, and I just went, that's it. I closed my eyes, and I knew this was a frequency where we could do healing. And so when that happened, I said, hey, we got to do a case study on this. So we grabbed, I don't know, it was 10 or 12 of my patients, and we evaluated them using a concussion protocol with an iPad that I had. And we teamed up with Cleveland Clinic. And this was like all just super impromptu, hey, I got an idea, which is always bad with me, right, Jet?
Hang on, it's my life.
And it's her life. It's like, hey, I got an idea. She's like, no.
Hang on. And some of them were like, for science, the things we had to do with EMF for him.
We'll share that later.
No, we're horrifying.
We'll
now,
share it later.
Hang on. But now he's resilient, and that's the most important thing.
So
love that.
So these 12 people, we did this assessment on them, and then we had them come in every day for 10 minutes, and they stood on the sound platform with their eyes closed, and they had better balance. What came of this was anywhere between 50 and 80%. They had better balance, they had better urination, they had better sleep, they had more thirst for water, they were more calm, and all of this was documented with Cleveland Clinic. So it was really kind of a cool thing that we put together. At the end of the study, my mom passed away, and so I had to leave, and Jet had to finish up the end of the study and stuff. So it was a pretty tough time. But we look at that. That was kind of the real stepping stone for us.
Well, it was for us to work in, because we work with light, sound, vibration, but to see with great precision how our body's innate ability to heal. And so as we segue,
well, we also used that on some, I mean, we had some really amazing success, guys. We had a couple of paraplegics that were wheelchair bound, and we put them on various frequencies. And
hang on, that's nowhere on the internet, by the way.
That is nowhere on the internet. This is just, for the WAVwatch Nation. But we had one guy that had had an embolism break loose into his spine, and
he did walk out.
He did. He walked out.
Wow.
He walked out, and it was crazy.
Hang on. So we're going to
I
segue.
want to talk about lightning strikes and electrical shocks, things
Okay.
like that as a precursor.
Okay.
Okay, so take two. All right. So one of the other things that we found in this whole EMF thing is that when I was talking about the exposome, we have to look at all those things really clearly, really go through the weeds. And one of the things that we've seen, I've been in my life 2 pretty darn close lightning strikes, 50 yards. And also came home one night on the ambulance after being in the Colorado River most of the night. And my dad didn't have a plate on the floodlights, and I stuck my finger in between the 2 switches, soaking wet, and got hit really hard, bitten really hard with electricity. And I believe very strongly that this is a precursor. And so we have to ask those questions when we're doing our assessments on people and finding out, digging through the weeds. Have you ever been electrocuted? Have you ever been, near a lightning strike?
Do you live near power lines?
Do you live near power lines? Right now, 80 feet from power lines. He's a mess. He's a disaster. And so these things are, the brain runs on electric fields, the heart runs on electric fields. And if there's too much electricity, the brain and the heart will cease to function, in a nutshell.
Okay. John, do you want to ask a question, or do you want me to?
Joseph's got some for you, actually.
I was just going to throw this up. People in the chat are loving your story and, all this stuff. But I know that one of the things you mentioned before we went live was that there are kind of 4 stages of healing involved with sleep and EMS and all this stuff. So I'd love to hear that a little bit. And I know people would too.
This is where, we merge. And, but it's so important for everybody. Thank you, Joseph, for everybody to understand when you look at your history and look at the exposome, all of those things are really important for us to be able to unlock our innate ability to heal. And we're hardwired to heal. I want for everybody to know on here, no matter what's gone on in your life, you are hardwired to heal. I've seen it. And so it's amazing. But from our work and Dr. Robert Navio's work called the Cell Danger Response, he is an MD, PhD out of the University of California, San Diego, who is known as to being a mitochondrial expert, but also a lot of great work on autism. And he has really studied when you have external stressors that sometimes our body stays in that cell danger response. So we're always in survival. And so that was his first work. But then his latest works are really the sequence to how we heal. The body doesn't make up a new way. Okay. There's a sequence. And so what we've done is made his research, which is very heavy biochemistry. So it's my love language. And
Not mine.
No, I mean, we know that his work is incredible, that he's done, but what he's calling for everybody on here, because we all have different gifts, that we're supposed to be that second book of medicine and make actionable steps of the plan that he laid out. And here's the plan. Number 1, we have to reduce your exposure to all stressors, external stressors. But the biggest stressor in our lifetime is EMF. Okay, but there are many. There's glyphosate, there's all kinds of toxins out there. But number 1, we have to reduce our external stressors, exposure to those stressors, because they make internal stressors. Okay, that's the first thing. And that's one of the reasons why we love WAVwatch, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay, we have to reduce that exposure. And number 2, we have to have the nutrients and building blocks to heal. And a lot of those should be made in our gut. Okay, and they're not. And so we also have to supplement because our soil doesn't have the minerals in it. And I know some of the smartest people on the planet are the farmers. And I have some great friends that they grow the best food, and the rhizome around the plant is just like our GI tract. And that's where all the nutrients are made. And so we want to mirror what those good farmers are doing, make America healthy again. Okay. So the second one is nutrients, and we have to have those building blocks. Okay. If we're deficient in one, it could be an external stressor, because if we don't have B6, which is a rate limiting step for sleep, to make tryptophan, to serotonin, to melatonin. If we don't have that, which should be made in our gut, okay, which is also on the WAVwatch for B vitamins, then you're not going to make it. Okay, so first, reduce your exposure. Second, nutrients. Third, our wakeful activities. What do we do during the day? There are so many people that have great skills. Dr. Kort just played a healing bowl this morning from Tibet. Our circadian, everything is circadian. 90% of all of our nutrient sensing genes are circadian. They're time oriented. It's the number one factor. But it could be people that are on here that are massage therapists, or that, like Linda, that worked with the biomeridian machine. Dr. Kort and his work. There are so many people, hydrocolon therapists. There are people that do great healing modalities that are wakeful activities that are really important and very specific. But the fourth component, and that's why we're here, is restorative sleep. And that is when we heal. And what I study is the sleep biochemistry and all the processes, because that is, for me, you could do the first three, and if you don't do the fourth, you're not going to be able to heal. And so that's why we're here today, and to make it restorative sleep made simple. And with the WAVwatch 2.0 and that collaboration. But I want everybody on here to know that this, what I just said to you, is the cycle of how we heal. It will be mainstream. If this is the first time you've ever heard it, you're going to hear it 6 months from now. You're going to hear it a year from now. It's going to be the book of how the second book of medicine 2.0, kind of like WAVwatch 2.0. That is, we're hardwired.
Going back through those, reducing your exposure, some of the things that we do. So digital hygiene is a huge part of what's going on in our world. So we're sitting here on a Zoom call with you, and the computer is being powered by an external power bank instead of being plugged in, which makes it a lot easier for me to sit in the field because the computer's being run on a battery. The computer is also hardwired to a coax cable that goes the whole length of our place and then is in the farthest place away from us. And then the light that we have, it's also being powered by a battery. And so we're not plugged into anything here so that we can operate, and especially me, in the highest cognitive function. Digital hygiene also has to take place in our bedroom. And I think we'll talk about that another time. You can ask the people in the chat if they want to hear from us again.
Yeah.
But that's a really important part about digital hygiene in your home, digital hygiene in the bedroom.
Hang on.
And digital hygiene in your workplace.
And why we have these on is because we measure our eyes, vision processing, pupillary reflex, vision contrast sensitivity testing. And we've looked at a lot of data and how the exposure really does impact our eyes. I mean, we have a lot of friends much smarter than us that are ophthalmologists and neurooptometrists that actually lecture on myopia, and it's an epidemic. And so we just reduce our exposure in all the ways that we can. But what I'd like to do, if we could, because this is fun, some of the patterns that we've seen, which will lead to what we've learned the last 3 months, you guys, with the conferences that we've attended with WAVwatch, but what we've measured with heart rate variability, which we've measured for many years. And we're also certified in sleep medicine, where we also measure HRV at night. Okay. But we've saw that a lot of people hold their technology, their cell phones. And what we've seen is the meridians that start in the hand. And so that would be, we've seen patterns of statistical significance that the heart meridian, the small intestine meridian, the pericardium meridian, and sometimes triple burner, when you hold your phone, that they're being affected. So we have a lot of data on that. So we need to reduce exposure. But what we really, and we also don't wear smart devices to measure. And we actually, when we started sleep medicine, we had many companies that provided us free wearables because we're certified in sleep medicine. And they hurt Dr. Kort. They hurt a lot of our people that were sensitive, because a lot of the hour they ping and they make them agitated. And so we just had to almost lay that down. But we do have a sleep medicine wearable now that is made different and that we use that doesn't cause agitation. But when you wear a smart device, it is continuing to ping and gather data. And for people that have EMF hypersensitivity, it wasn't worth me trying to gather data when it was hurting them. It was causing agitation and they wanted it off. What did you see? This is a great takeaway for everybody in here. Dr. Kort, what did you see in the last 3 conferences we were at with wearing the WAVwatch, but talking to people that had smart watches on?
Well, you know, I love technology, and none of us are immune to our electromagnetic fields. None of us. It's just that I get to feel it first. And it's frustrating at times, you know. It's frustrating when and symptoms real quick, kind of like Superman when he gets exposed to kryptonite. That's what we see in me. So we see me just start to melt down until the point where I can lose consciousness. Yeah. It's a big problem. Like when you're riding in a vehicle and everybody's got their phone on and everybody's sitting there scrolling, and say if I'm in a vehicle with 1 phone, I'm good. If I'm in a vehicle with 2 phones, I'm okay. 3 phones, getting dicey. 4 phones, something has to get shut off because it literally starts to break down my ability to function. One of the things that as a chiropractor, and I'm assuming that the WAVwatch Nation understands chiropractic terms.
And we love chiropractors.
Yeah,
so
we do too.
When you got a bone out of place, chiropractors call it a subluxation. Well, one of the things that I was noticing with people is that a lot of people are wearing these wearables. A lot of people are wearing like an Apple Watch. And so I came up with the idea, you know, can I palpate your neck? And they're like, yeah. And understanding the brainstem the way that I do, I was looking at this going, I'm theorizing that there's an effect from the watch and it could be affecting the neck. And so I started testing some people, and everybody I tested had what I would call a pseudo subluxation in the neck.
That were wearing a
smartwatch. And I started thinking about all the chiropractors that I work with, and they palpate the neck and they're like, oh man, you've got a subluxation. We need to adjust this neck, crack, crack. And they never look down on their wrist. And so when I came up with that idea and I started thinking, you know,
and then you had them take it off.
Yeah. When I came up with the idea, I'm like, well, how can we fix this? And so it started actually at one of the events that we were at. I'm like, hey, can I palpate your neck? And everybody's like, oh, that's a little weird. No. I'm a chiropractor, trained professional. I can do this. And so I'd palpate their neck and I'd use motion palpation, and all but 5 of the people, and what do you think? 50, 60 people that I've palpated so far?
At least.
So all but 5 people had what I would now call a pseudo subluxation on the left side of the neck, up high around C1, C2, and C3. And then I say, okay, I want to talk to you about this. And I'd say, watch this. And I'd put a watch on them, and I'd take their watch off. I'd put the WAVwatch on, and I'd take their watch off and just set it there on the table. For 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah,
I'd talk to them about WAVwatch, talk to them about why I liked WAVwatch. And then I'd say, okay, can I palpate you again? They'd be like, yeah, sure. And I wouldn't say anything. I'd just start to palpate their neck, and they'd be like, oh man, this is just so much better.
It was mind blowing.
And it was 100%. I mean, not one person did it not change dramatically. And they're like, is it this watch? And I said, no, this watch has no EMF coming out of it. We just took the thing that was driving your system in a fight or flight mechanism and removed it. I mean, think about this. If you have a constant electrical field going into your body,
it's information. It's delivering information continually to the brainstem. And Dr. Kort was an upper cervical doctor. That was his area of expertise. So the smartwatch is delivering information that isn't really doing a lot of damage. Okay. Because C1, C2, C3, a lot of stuff's going on, and the vagus nerve. And then hang on. And then the WAVwatch is delivering also information. but in a beautiful, healthy way that's not connected to the internet that you have control over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a really good way to put it. It's delivering healing information, right? So a
Healing
different
information.
For us frequency fanatics, you know,
frequency
we have,
fanatics. Yeah.
we have to look at, you know, what we're in a point right now where our world has never been more electrified.
That's true.
It's never been more electrified. I mean, think about it. In 87, there's only 5 cell phones in Australia when we started. And now everybody on the planet has one. But it's not just that. The average household of 4, we have an estimated 17 to 24 devices that run on Wi-Fi.
Wow.
Wow.
You know, you think about one of the things that happened to me was Jet and I were on a plane leaving Florida. Just think about it for a second. You're in an aircraft. How many of those people have a cell phone? 100%.
Everyone.
How many
Plus
people
an iPad?
Smartwatch?
How about the TV
Probably
behind your head?
Then we have a little screen at the occiput at your brain, and then we have another one in front of you. And so all the seats have that. And then you look at, you know, the fact that the plane runs on Wi-Fi, and then
cosmic radiation. In
the cockpit, you have between 300 and 600 computer systems, and then you're flying 30,000 feet, which is cosmic radiation. And we actually really, one of the things that was one of the catalysts for us figuring out that I have this sensitivity was we were sitting on the tarmac, and the pilot said, "Hey, you know, we're going to be stuck here for a while. We'll just turn on the 5G and everybody enjoy yourself. We'll be up in the air in a little bit." And I was mid-sentence telling Jet, "I don't feel well." She's like, "Well, how don't you feel well?" I'm like, "I don't really know." And then I was out, and we were airborne. How long were we airborne?
We were airborne for an hour and a half, but he could hear, but he couldn't come out of it. So his body was in a state of shock.
In the first phase of shock is disbelief. Okay. When I worked on the paramedic unit, you had to be really careful when you approach people, because the first phase of shock is disbelief. You know, "Oh my gosh, I'm bleeding," or "I can't believe my brain is feeling foggy. I've got to get this paper out. I've got to get this work done." The second phase of shock is agitation. "I'm really getting angry that I can't get my fingers to function on a keyboard. And what's the matter with me?" And the third phase is, "That's it. I can't take this. I got to lay down." This is what we're dealing with.
And that's why we don't fly anymore. We limit our flying because it's too much exposure.
So talk about being a frequency fanatic and how cool this is.
Yes. But I want to say, because we haven't got to say this part yet, even though Dr. Kort has EMF hypersensitivity, because this is about longevity, and we're getting ready to go to A4M, because of all things we measure, even though he is the canary in the coal mine, right? He feels first. And we had other patients that also feel that are very sensitive that would actually go into a seizure if somebody turned on their cell phone in the same room. So there's a level of severity, but we all are affected, some just more than others. But Dr. Kort is a blue zone. So his HRV is of a 30-year-old, which means the strategies we have employed work. And even his metabolic, we did a testing when we were at a hyperbaric conference, because we have hyperbarics, and we were at this hyperbaric conference, and it's a breath, 10-minute breath test metabolically they use for NASA and MIT. And when they came back and I said, "Well, how did Dr. Kort do?" They go, "He's blue zone." And I'm like, whoa. And so I want people to know on here that you can be resilient. Okay. And that is really important, because a lot of people that have these symptoms that you may know that are family members, it may come across as mental health. It's not. Okay. That we need to reduce your exposure, that you can be resilient like Dr. Kort. So we look forward to going to A4M, because we can really, the strategies we employ, reduce your exposure, nutrients, wakeful activities, and restorative sleep really do help him to be resilient. He's a 30-year-old in like EEG, HRV, metabolics. So I want, boom. But that we can have optimal longevity. And that's what this is about, right? Have that quality of life.
Let's talk about restorative sleep and what's going on with the frequency fanatics. Because so Jet was my tutor when we were 23 to 25. And now she's my lead researcher and my tutor in our 50s, you know, and she's a ravenous reader and absolutely brilliant. I'm just the eye candy. She's brilliant. And she's to do, right? So let's talk about sleep and frequencies.
Well, I think that's one of the things that we love most about the WAVwatch is that I think that sleep is so imperative, and they already had so many of those tools on the WAVwatch for insomnia or emotional and sleeping and obstructive, many things, and many pathogens and parasites are more active at night. And I mean, there's a lot of things involved, and Linda has way more experience on that than all of us on here. And that's the stuff I want to get from Linda. But we collaborated because of our work at the Sleep Balance Academy, where we teach physicians, that we really want to share and be able to provide what we've learned and continue to learn every day to be able to help create like the sleep protocol together so that everybody on here can be able to do a push and play and they can have optimal restorative sleep. And that's one of the things we're really excited about. And because if we can fix that one thing, if we can do that one thing, I want you to know we're going to see miraculous healing.
Why are we here? To help save humanity. We're all in this electrical soup together. And until we found WAVwatch, I mean, it's just a huge arrow in the quiver. But should we talk real quick about?
Why don't you ask Joseph what we should? What
Well,
Joseph,
I was just,
tell us what you want us to do, John.
Well, I was gonna throw out. You mentioned a little bit, but I don't actually know all the details about how you and John and Linda work to create the sleep frequencies on the WAVwatch 2.0. I'd love to hear a little bit of that, and then we'll take questions. We've got a ton of amazing questions for you guys, but I'd love to hear about the sleep frequencies on the 2.0 device that you guys worked on.
I want to do that, but can I also share a testimony? We also have a beautiful
go ahead.
Patient and we have veterans that we work with. We just want you to know we love our veterans, and we just are so excited that WAVwatch has strategies to be able to help people that are suffering from PTSD and mental health and so many issues. And it's an amazing product. But we actually have a quadriplegic that Dr. Kort was told that he could help. And she actually, it's a complex case, but she had West Nile and it caused
inner brainstem.
But he goes, because he was a quadriplegic when he was a young man, and he knew
just 3 days,
but it took 9 months of rehab anyhow. But he went there, and she has a WAVwatch. And I want you to know, with a multimodal approach, she now can use her both hands and she can feed herself. She's off a feeding tube, and she has that WAVwatch, and it's helping in so many ways to help her. So I want to say thank you to WAVwatch for that, because Dr. Kort went and raised money because they were already $5 million in debt from all of her surgeries and liver transplants at 26 years old, now 28. But I want you to know that we know that we're going to see a lot more of these miracles. And thank you, WAVwatch, for that.
And when we did that too, well, I mean, when I first met her, I mean, we worked with her nutritionally for a month before I got there, and I had 5 days, and so that's part of our concierge care, is that I was there from morning till bedtime, and then I actually just stayed at their house and slept on a floor. But I was given a WAVwatch to take there, and the first thing I did was put that on her, and then I put mine on, and we ran the same frequencies while I was working with her, 8 to 10 hours a day. And I think that was, I mean, did a lot of things, but that was a big precursor to her being able to get better, to the point where when I left, she was able to feed herself with both hands. She was able to turn her hands over. She's able to touch all of her fingers. She was able to say the alphabet forwards, backwards, and looping in and looping out from Z to M.
And her feet.
And we had nothing in her feet, and we were able to bring back foot motion and a little bit of toes. But she was in Mexico. She actually felt so strong that she had said, okay, I'm going. And you have to move this girl with a hoist. I mean, it's not like this is an easy gig.
It was her best friend's wedding.
It was her best friend's wedding. And so we have pictures of her sitting in her wheelchair with her feet in the ocean. And she felt very empowered. So things are going to, we'll talk more about her, but things are going to continue to improve.
I think that those are really important. And we also measure her sleep. So I want to know that we're a part of that team.
Let's get back there.
Getting back to sleep. Well, we really shared both, I think, hard literature, looking at really vagal stimulation, because we have to have different things going on biochemically, and we have sleep pressure. So all of this is circadian driven, and we have different pressures that should make us feel sleepy. And a lot of times when we eat late and we have a lot of blue light and a lot of frequencies, what's happening is that it's hindering our ability to get to the first part of sleep. And so we have to have our core temperature has to cool off 2 to 3 degrees to even get there. But what causes that? It could be eating late. It could be infection. It could be inflammation. It could be a hot room, right? There's many things that can cause that.
Both electrically and heat.
Yeah. But we really were just sharing, like, what are the strategies that we use and employ, and also using the Asian body clock, because we heal every 2 hours. And so we really just incorporated not only the circadian aspect, but hormonally. Like, we need to naturally have more progesterone being made, and we need to have melatonin and adenosine to help us feel sleepy. But then we have to be able to make GABA and human growth hormone to be able to help heal. So there are many aspects that we brought into the table, and vagal stimulation that we shared with John and Linda, with already their plethora of knowledge, especially on things I don't know, like parasites and pathogens, and everything in our body is very cyclical. There's a circadian rhythm. And I know that I'm excited to get our WAVwatch 2.0. It should be here later today. But I just want you to know, but it all started here with this. This was the only, we love this. This is what we call it, one of our emergency essentials.
It is our emergency essentials. And then,
yeah. Did Joseph, that answer your question?
No, that was perfect. And I think
so
John,
I'm going to jump in and say, so
John, go ahead, John.
So basically the way that works, and we've done an introduction of the WAVwatch 2.0, but we haven't actually explained how the sleep function works. So I'm going to take this off of portrait mode, so it'll do correct here. But basically, with the WAVwatch 2.0, you would go to this menu here, and I'm going to do this backwards. So you go to sleep, and let's say that it's 10 p.m. You're going to sleep, and it's 10:05. You would click on the 10 p.m. and then you can actually fast forward. So I would fast forward to like 5 minutes. So that way it's right at 10:05. It's 10:05, you put on and you go to sleep. And basically this is designed to follow right along with the Chinese body clock and our circadian rhythms to support your body in the same way that they were talking about earlier, and that's really designed to help support the body as it can heal itself. And so it's just supporting those functions and just right along with your circadian rhythms. And so yeah, it's been pretty amazing. My wife and I have been tracking some of our sleep with different. We don't have the ring yet that Jet was mentioning, but using other methods, and we've been like, it used to be that a high score was like a mid 80s out of 100, and we both hit a 94 last week on our sleep scores. So pretty exciting stuff, and we look forward to continuing to explore different ways that we can help the body to heal itself through sound. And not to give too much away, but we actually just did some more marketing and just saw something from one of our recent commercial shoots. And that's going to be something you all will be seeing in a really cool video that we just came up with. So
yeah, well, last question. Then I saw some people. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to give this real quick for people with sleep. So we have structural issues, and which could be airway, okay, and breathing, and that's really a lot of the work that Dr.
Can't be overlooked.
Yeah, structural. But then we have like insomnia and biochemical reasons why you have a hard time getting to sleep and or staying asleep. Okay. But the third component that no one thinks about that we do is pain. And if you're in chronic pain, you do not get to restorative sleep. And it's one of the aspects that we can be able to address. It's actually the first thing that Linda always addresses is inflammation, pain, and trauma. And so just so you know, for people on here that are not getting restorative sleep because they're in chronic pain, there are solutions for you. Okay. And it's really important. Once a few nights that you get out of pain, our body is so smart. You'll be able to start getting restorative sleep, and then you'll be able to start healing. So I wanted to say that real quick, Joseph, before to help people.
Yeah, and it is really, really important. I mean, sleep medicine is a difficult, very difficult thing to wrap your head around, and understanding what's going on in the mouth and understanding what's going on in the throat through the sleep process is really pivotal. The watch is going to be a huge adjunct to helping people get restorative sleep. But if they are having an issue with sleep, they need to go to a professional and have that evaluated. And we're working on making it simpler that, we're actually working on getting it out of the labs. I mean, there's a place for the labs, but it's hard to sleep when you're hooked up to all kinds of wires. But, that's, again, a part of the history, finding out, have you had your wisdom teeth pulled? Do you have a narrow palate? And many other questions that even with the frequencies, if they've got a physical issue with the mouth, the throat, and the nose, they're still going to have issues with sleeping.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great. One question I saw in the chat, people were asking you, you both are wearing WAVwatches right now. What are you playing? Like what do you use the WAVwatch for during the day or at night to help you sleep?
Okay. All these people, I'm so excited about this. I'm a breast cancer thriver of 8 years, and I've not taken any, I had a bilateral mastectomy, and I've not had chemo or radiation, and I've done it all naturally. But I was starting to have some pain in my hip and in my shoulder, mostly in my hip, and it was not getting better. And no amount of omega-3s was I taking, no amount of technology that we have from South Africa, nothing I was doing was helping. And it was 4 months later, and it was starting to affect my sleep and get worse. And so I met with a nurse practitioner way smarter than me that does hormones. And I'm like, I don't want to put that in my body. Like I'm almost 60. I've worked. I don't have any other symptoms other than this little thing. So anyhow, I started working on what she suggested, but I use it on the WAVwatch. So I do progesterone getting ready for bed. And then I do estrogen balance in the morning. And then I do hormone balance and endocrine balance. And I want you to know within 3 days of doing that, that pain is gone. The pain is absolutely gone. So I was so mind blowing how important, and it's very much a telltale sign for women in perimenopause and menopause to have those kinds of pains. But just know that for me, I'm pain-free. And I know it's because of, being able to use the guidance from the nurse practitioner that's a hormone expert, but in a safer manner for me.
That's amazing. Yeah. So a lot of that, you said hormone balancing and different hormones.
That's what I use.
All right. And what about you, Dr. Kort?
Well, for me, pain was a thing that was something, because I'm such an expert on gravity and how it works. I had a lot of pain stuff. So, pain was a big one. But, also the detox, I think, is really, really important. And I play the detox, and
EMF detox was one of the things that first caught his eye. Yeah.
Right. And I love the emotional part. I use a lot of different frequencies, and parasites, especially if you have animals, and you always want to play parasites.
And we actually use the WAVwatch on our dog because he had a little bit of a cough, and he's never had a cough, but there were a lot of dogs at the Miami expo we were at. And so we started playing pathogen around his collar on the way home, and it helped. And so, we love, like many on here, this is pet friendly. And that's what's so exciting, is that it's another strategy that can be able to help, your other furry family members.
Yeah.
And I think, as we continue down this chronological highway, and we're speeding up, I also play some of the things from seniors. So I pick and choose along the way. And that's also the way I ask our patients and people that we work with. We look at, I think the anger and trauma one is super important. And then going through the emotions is really important because that's part of our baggage that we carry with us every day.
I forgot one. I wanted to show this. So one of the things that I had a lot of comments on was my skin. And I do play the skin regeneration and a lot of those stem cell healing, RNA, DNA healing. And so I want people on here that, yes, I do take a patented collagen and I do work on myself, but I do use those skin frequencies for all the ladies out there. And I love it. And so I think that, I don't know if in the 2.0, it will be in a different place, but it's under skin. But it is for really all healing, for all stem cells, for that. So I wanted to mention that, the ladies things.
And I've been playing the hair one, and it's not working.
Yes.
I'm getting all this hair on my back and the inside of my knees, and I can't figure out why. No, but I'm one day it'll help with my alopecia. So
that's not true. That's not true.
You guys are hilarious. Well, we're already a little over time, but this has been a wealth of information. I wanted to throw up just a few quick questions, if that's all right.
Sure.
And let's see here. I had starred some of the ones because I know you guys are experts on this, but this is an interesting one. I hadn't heard of this. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm going to say that we don't have any data showing that from our directly from the EMF and COVID, but it would be because you'd have high cortisol levels and you're very stressed. That those are external stressors that cause internal stressors, and that would be a higher cortisol level, which is very common for losing hair. But I wouldn't say we have any direct causal from EMF, but it is an external stressor.
But I did lose my hair. It was around that time, that 99.
Russ, that was about cortisol. And stressors.
Yeah. All right. Here's another interesting one.
Oh.
Yeah, we're working on that. We're working on it. Our children, they are our most vulnerable population, and our elderly, but the children especially. And so we are actively working on campaigns to start to help protect our children. And I think the watch is a great part of it.
Let me step in here. We are working on education campaigns for children. Okay, that's part of our education awareness. And so thank you for also working with those children. They're our future. But one of the things that you can do is that it's really to focus on at home, at night. And we must make it, we didn't get to talk about that, a sleep sanctuary, because that's when we heal.
We're going to talk on our next one.
Okay. So you have the control when you're at home. So you need to have a dark, cool room and create a sleep sanctuary, remove all the technology that has EMF and electrical fields, and you can use your WAVwatch for sleep. So you have a lot of power at home where you control. And during the day, where it's about education in the school districts to reduce your exposure. But thank you for that question.
Yeah, digital hygiene, it is absolutely critical, and we'd love to come back and talk about that more.
Yeah, I think we could probably have a whole thing, but just a few quick ones. But this is great.
We're already getting lots of people saying they want you back, so that helps.
Yeah.
As we have our content calendar, we're looking at to develop in the next few months. So we'll be working on that.
So we work with a lot of people regarding EMF. We work with people that work with the Department of Defense and so forth. And here's the most important thing on the stickers. I have not found them to be effective for me at all. And I guess if it stopped all the EMF, then how would the phone work?
That's a great point.
So I mean, I think that like shielding things like this that that shield your phone, that's a good start. Not putting it on your body, really, really, really important. But just for me, you know, at the last show that we were at, one of our friends, iPhone, one of the real powerful iPhones, and he had me talking to someone, and it was 10 minutes, and I was starting to feel impaired, and I had to just give it back to him. So that particular one didn't work.
Well, I want to say it a little different way. Okay. We need to reduce your exposure. And when we were at a conference for physicians on EMF hypersensitivity, which was in Scotts Valley, California, prior to COVID, they told everybody to shut off their cell phones. Okay. Because there are people that are sensitive in there. And we have some of the Ollie Johansson. We have some of the very best in the entire world speaking. And we've got a lady next to him scrolling on her phone, literally. And he's like, it's his arms burning. And he leans over politely and says, would you mind shutting off your phone? And she goes, well, I have this sticker on it. So it's a false sense. I want you to know it does. It was burning his arm. And so for people on here, we know that nature is very grounding. Our mantra at Dr. EMF is where science meets nature. When we see our concierge patients, we are in nature. Usually we don't even have Wi-Fi in some beautiful places like here. Okay. But I want people to know some of the things that you're using may be just marketing, and he is the canary in the coal mine, or kryptonite.
And see how you feel. I mean, if you've got your phone against your head and you have a sticker and you're not feeling well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One interesting one here about sleep apnea, more of a testimonial, but I don't know if you guys work with sleep apnea.
Folks on the chat are wanting us to read the questions as well.
Okay. I can read this one. This is from Mark Brewer. I've been diagnosed with apnea and use an APAP for treatment. The real story is that without running the sleep apnea on the WAVwatch, my events per hour measured by the machine range from 3.2 to 5. But with the WAVwatch, it's from 0.2 to 0.8 events per hours. So that's a pretty impressive. What do you guys think about sleep apnea and your experience with that?
Go ahead.
Well, we're very excited to get to measure that. And it's only been since May. Do you know what I mean? I mean, since we've been using the product, and now Dr. Kort, because he has a mouth appliance, he doesn't have to have a CPAP. So he already has optimal. We're excited to get to measure that when people are concierge and that are doing sleep medicine with us, that we can be able to use that as a strategy. So whoever sent that, provided that, I would like to have that data, Joseph or John, and I would like to continue in a case study with him, because it's really important and exciting.
And this is a whole, this is another talk that we'll have. I mean, for the last 2 weeks almost, I've been using 2 different sleep monitoring devices to compare them and see if they're accurate. My goal is always to keep people out of a CPAP if possible. But if you're having obstructive sleep and there's no other way to fix it, then you have to do that. But in doing that, you have to understand that the motor is right next to your head and it's putting out a Gauss electricity. And so you can't extend the oxygen tube too much, because then you lose pressure. So there are some solutions that we work with as far as the electric fields of having that plugged in next to your head.
But with that, I would love to work on that. And that's exciting to me for both of you.
Yeah,
I'm a data oriented person. And if I can see that data, I would love to help write up a case study and be able to share that. We're very open.
Well, thank you guys. Just so exciting. We are a little over time, so we're going to wrap up with a giveaway. But that's actually perfect, because just so you guys know, if you are wanting to get in touch with Dr. Kort or JET, their website is here. And so for the giveaway, we'd love for you to go to their website, or if you want to email JET, if you want to hear more about what they're doing or get in contact, if you want to follow us on social media, and comment in the chat your favorite takeaway from the webinar. And as soon as I get a few chats in, I'll randomly pick a winner, and then we will wrap up. But thanks again. Just obviously we could go on and on with what you guys have shared, because each of those 4 keys. There are books written about each of those, right? From
Absolutely.
reducing exposure and nutrients to your daily life cycle, and so much. So
We've got a book in us. It hasn't come out yet. We've got a book we're going to work on. So
well, we look forward to
be about this thick.
Oh, so
Yeah.
Joseph, do you want them to go in order to be in the drawing? Do they right now have to write something in the chat?
Yeah, so if you guys would comment in the chat to be entered in the drawing, that would be great.
Okay. If they've already commented in the chat, are they already a part of the drawing?
They'll need to just comment again their highlights so I can randomly pick somebody fresh. Yeah, so
Great questions, Jet. Yes.
Thank you, Jet. You're very, very excellent. All right.
So are you trying to get a WAVwatch, Dr. Kort?
I am. I just put in, pick me, Dr. Kort. All right.
I think somebody might call foul if you were randomly selected. So especially because I know there's one going to be in your mailbox within the next few hours. So
well, we've had.
We could have one for Kaizen that he permanently gets to wear.
Yeah, we need to come up with a collar one. That would be cool.
Well, no, with the band you can do that.
I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I picked my wife's favorite number, 17. So the 17th comment. It's on Facebook. This is Jen. So yeah,
so Jen, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Woohoo! Woohoo! And really, if you think about it, that's a great takeaway from what you guys said. Lower EMS and improve your sleep. Absolutely the whole point of this, right? And improve your sleep, help your body heal. So congrats. Jen. And then last but not least is we wanted to offer everyone, and this is our discount code for the pre-order for the WAVwatch 2.0. And please use the Dr. EMF. That's the discount code for Dr. Kort and JET.
That's DOCTOREMF.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us more about the pre-order real quick.
That's a great question. And actually, this code will work if someone buys the original WAVwatch as well,
Okay.
I believe. So the pre-order, basically, pre-order, they're set up to work in the cart. You choose whether you want a rose gold unit or a graphite unit. And then the card, the card will be charged for a portion of the total, but not the full amount until it's closer to ship date. And we are hoping for early December on that. And I don't have any other further updates besides early December. But we're very, very excited about the WAVwatch 2.0 and what it's bringing to the table. So,
yeah.
Awesome. So this is a they get $125 off until when? Until when with this code? How long is that good for?
We have been running this for a little while, so we're wrapping this today.
Midnight tonight.
Midnight tonight. So just limited time. But even after this, you would still get $100 off per watch.
You ought to run it through the Black Friday. I mean, honestly.
Well,
everybody,
we may have something coming back, but we need to give a little.
So Linda's birthday is 1 week from today, and so that happens to be just before Black Friday. So there might be something else, but this exact special, which is a great special, runs through midnight tonight.
Oh, so. and a great segue here, the updated cards. So for those that want to keep their original WAVwatch 1.0, we've got a WAVwatch 1.9 card. John, do you have the discount code on that handy?
I think it's card upgrade.
Okay.
All one word, card upgrade.
So for those of you that want to get the WAVwatch 1.9 upgrade card, and I'll drop the link in the chat as well. And just to clarify the questions on this, so the nice thing about the 1.9 upgrade card is it does have the frequency sets, which are much easier to use.
Right.
It does not have the full 12-hour circadian rhythm frequencies that have been developed with Dr. Kort and JET and John, but it does have several 1-hour sleep sets in the self-care folder, which are really good improvements over what we've got now. So I just dropped that in the chat for everyone. So,
and then for anyone that has purchased a WAVwatch, the original WAVwatch since October 1st and beyond into November, we are giving a card, sending that complimentary as well. So that's something that we're trying to make sure that people get the most value out of anything that they're working with us, and we're so excited about what that's bringing to the table. And then also keep in mind that the WAVwatch 2.0, because of some more water resistance and many different things with the development costs, we have had to unfortunately increase the price just a little bit. And so your original WAVwatch is still a little bit better price at this point. So.
And great point on the price. Yeah, thanks, John. I also put a link in the chat. If you order the WAVwatch, there's the link to request a free upgrade code. So,
so all of those people that we saw in the conferences, you're taking care of.
Right. We are taking care of them.
We gotcha.
Yep.
Thanks so much for letting us be a part of the WAVwatch Nation. We are so excited about what the future brings and what we can help bring to the future of WAVwatch. So,
thank you so much for being on the team in so many ways. So, and great to have, we'll definitely be having you back. And thank you guys for your time. And
sounds like there will be a mutiny if you don't come back.
Yeah, if you don't come back,
we'll have to schedule that soon. So,
all
right.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day. Be well.
Thanks,
and
everybody.
I hope Linda feels better as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Get well, Linda.
Okay.